Welcome back to our Freedom Bunker. We broadcast every Sunday from 2 to 4, but it doesn't start and stop on Sundays from 2 to 4. We are available 24/7 with extra shows, content, guests, analysis, archives to all of our shows at davejanded.com. Stop on by. You will never be disappointed. You will be educated, you will be empowered, and frankly, it might get you a little mad. Because we provide you information that you need to know that the syndicate does not want you to know about, and thereby by you knowing, it puts you ahead of their curve that ends in a brick wall with the shattering of your freedoms, your liberties, your health, your welfare, your financial resources, your future, and our constitutional republic. You see, folks, every week we bring to our operating room information and guests the bought-off lamestream fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit in their preconceived, politically correct, bought-off agenda. Because, folks, they're petrified. They are petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know. This show is about your freedom, your political, your economic, your financial, and your health care freedom. Since the inception of our radio show, coming up on 16 years, not bad for a show that some folks predicted would last maybe a month. 16 years, October of 2010, we hit the airwaves. And one of our prime focuses has been on your financial well-being, your financial freedom. And I can't think of a better person to be with us this week, who's been with us many weeks, to the benefit of every person, not just willing to listen, but then willing to take action in protecting themselves against the globalist syndicate that is in the process of resetting the financial world. And it will only benefit the globalist syndicate. So you need to protect yourself. And our first guest and her family have created a financial lifeboat for all of us through utilization and making available the best financial insurance policy anyone could ever have. In fact, it stood the test of over 5,000 years. And that's physical gold and physical silver. Yes, I know your financial advisors tell you, oh, just stick with the paper assets that are all based in debt, D-E-B-T, whether they're stocks or bonds or treasuries. No, folks, you need to protect yourself. And my first guest, Adriana Reed, has taken the necessary steps to make that easier for you. For those of you not familiar, Adriana has been with the Camino Company since 2011 as a trader. She is now one of the principals in the Camino Company as one of the most knowledgeable and honest people. This is absolutely critical, folks, because in the precious metals world, there are some real, as in any industry, there are some real problem children. But Adriana is the most honest person in the precious metals arena, and Camino is the most honest company that I've dealt with. And I've dealt with Camino for over 30 years. It's my privilege, pleasure, and honor to welcome back. Oh, by the way, CaminoCompany.com. It's my privilege, pleasure, and honor to welcome back Adriana Reed. Adriana, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Dave.
So, Adriana, we had a bit of a auspicious anniversary yesterday. August 15th, 1971. 55 years ago, President Nixon ended the convertibility of the dollar to gold. He suspended the link between gold and the dollar, which essentially made it a currency that was based on vapor, thereby called a fiat currency.
Yeah.
Now, Adriana, the vast majority of people that I speak with, when I speak with them about this date is extremely important in American history and your financial future, and they say, Dave, that's 55 years ago. Come on. Well, Adriana, I dug up a statistic this morning. Since Richard Nixon on August 15th, 1971, ended the linkage between gold and the dollar, the purchasing power of the United States dollar has lost 87%. Adriana, that's not just a coincidence, is it?
No, not at all.
So at that point, the government, they were tied based on the gold supply, how many dollars they could print.
Right.
But then, when that relationship ended between gold and the printing of dollars, there was nothing to hold that government back. And this is why we see one of the reasons why we see the rampant inflation over all these decades, and in particular
Mm.
over the past several years. Am I reading that wrong?
No, it's absolutely true. So the biggest mistake that America made was taking us off the gold standard and the silver standard, and Nixon is 100% to blame for that as well. Ironically, he also did it during a time when inflation was actually pretty bad to start with, and he just made it worse and worse. And right after he did it, it got exponentially worse as time went on. And the truth is it's made it so that America has the ability to accumulate debt. And unfortunately, it also puts yourself in a category of other countries owning our debt at that. So it puts us in a very bad position financially, especially when it comes to global requirements and relationships that we have with other countries. So you start there. The second thing is that you have the ability to take away, in many ways, the American dream, which is something that you and I fight for on a day-to-day basis, that the ability for individuals to live a life where they aspire to do more in their lives and to, have generational wealth, or have the ability to, one parent working, for example, and one parent at home, is also something that has been taken away with that, where children are suffering from this. We could go have a list that goes on and on. All because of inflation. Inflation really is the reason why we have a lot of, two parents working. We have, people are renting houses, not buying houses. People are not living in the area where they work because they can't afford to live in that area. And we blame a lot of things, but there really is only one thing to blame, and that's inflation. And like you said, inflation would not exist if we were on a standard. So really the criminality behind all of this is, why did we do this? And when you really kind of go into depth of things, especially as we're in the midst of a potential war-like scenario, it funds wars. We can print more money when we need it. We can fund the military-industrial complex, which many of us know can be a laundering scheme for the government. I am for supporting our troops 100%, so don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I want our wars to be fought for freedom and not fought for private entities. And so that's where this situation is taking us, especially probably I would say since 2000 and 2008, those last two crashes, especially 2008 crash, really, really caused our debt to climb. And these are all things that never would have happened if August 15th, 1971 did not happen.
And Adriana, I just want to play a brief clip of Nixon making this announcement because it flew under the radar screen at the time of many people. Not, I have to say, not my dad. I remember when this happened. I remember exactly where we were. I was in the car with my parents. We were driving back. We were on the Eisenhower Expressway outside Chicago. And I remember my dad, I was in the back seat, turn around, and he looked at me and he said, "Dave, what you just heard means it's the end of the dollar, and it's going to really, really hurt our country. And as you get older, this is going to have big negative problems for every person in our country." I just want to play this quick clip. Derek, hit it.
The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. Now, what is this action, which is very technical, what does it mean for you? Let me lay to rest the bugaboo of what is called devaluation. If you want to buy a foreign car or take a trip abroad, market conditions may cause your dollar to to buy slightly less. But if you are among the overwhelming majority of Americans who buy American-made products in America, your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow as it is today.
Okay, Adriana, let's unpack a couple things. Notice how he said this was only going to be a temporary situation? Temporary?
Unfortunately, I think I just heard lie after lie, all in a matter of 2 minutes. So it was absolutely not temporary.
This is Nixon's version of Trump saying the jab was safe and effective.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
okay, first, it was going to be temporary. And second of all, your purchasing power, well, it might diminish if you're buying foreign goods, but if you're buying goods or services in the United States, it will not adversely affect you. As I mentioned, Adriana, the dollar in the States has lost 87% of its purchasing power since Nixon did that.
Absolutely. I mean, realistically, what you have to look at is also one of the points that he made was that he's putting it on the speculation of the American people and their economy. Now, realistically, as you and I know, all economies are going to go up and down naturally. We'll have strong GDP growth, which is a definition of an economy. And then we also have recessions where we have technically 2/4 of, GDP growth is coming down. We have consumer price index, which really is a gauge also about how, what our dollar is capable of doing. We have also, how much people are able to take on as a household and what they're able to spend. We have retail sales. We have all these gauges of different things that will gauge an economy. It's not the speculation of the people. It's the ability of the people and what they're capable of spending. And that's where he lost all of us, is because the reality is that the dollar didn't have to be on speculation. It could have been on something that was based on reality, that was a physical asset that could have backed it in order to maintain its value at a constant basis. Many of you, I'm sure, who are listening at the time were buying burgers for 25 cents. The burger didn't change. The price did.
And Adriana, there's one other point here. The person who was in charge of implementing this policy was his Secretary of the Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who was his Secretary of the Treasury? His Secretary of the Treasury was an individual who had been the governor of Texas before he became the Treasury Secretary. Well, who was he?
Mm-hmm.
A guy by the name of John Conley. Wait a minute. Why is that name familiar? Oh, wait. John Conley was in the same car that Jack Kennedy was when Kennedy got his head blown off. And in fact, Conley took a hit as well, not to his head, obviously, to his arm, I believe, his leg. But the very people who benefited from this Nixon move were the criminal banking syndicate, the same banking syndicate that has been shown to be behind what happened in Dealey Plaza in Dallas in November of '63, of which, if Conley really wasn't going to pull this off, all he had to do was, I don't know, think back 8 years before that and him sitting in the car and watching the guy behind him get his head blown off by the entity that is responsible for pushing Nixon to do that. Do I have this off?
No, you're spot on.
It's all related.
It's all related. And we could actually take it all the way back even further. I mean, a lot of this started before Kennedy and Nixon, and it's just a matter of who was willing to try to fight against the system itself that, to keep people's freedom and liberty. And then there's the individuals that will just follow in tune in order to make sure that their net wealth or that their assets are safe or that they are safe as individuals as well. I mean, right now, really, in order to fight this system, in essence, you will be putting your life on the line in some way, shape, or form.
And remember, in 1962, Kennedy tried to end the Fed by creating silver certificates where the money printing was going to leave the Fed and come back to the U.S. Treasury, and it would be backed by silver. Well, yet one of the reasons why Dealey Plaza happened, because the banksters weren't very happy about that, right?
100%. I mean, he really was probably the biggest threat to the Federal Reserve in the past probably 100 years.
So that brings me to another precious metals related event this week. We have not had an audit of the gold supply. We supposedly have 8,300 tons of gold between Fort Knox, West Point,
Mm-hmm.
Denver, and in some of the vaults underneath the streets of New York by the New York Federal Reserve. Okay.
Yes.
We have not had an official audit where they are assayed, where they are reviewed, where you look at the ownership, if they're encumbered, if somebody else has a claim against that. We haven't had that done since 1955, right?
Correct.
Okay. So this week, Rand Paul went to Fort Knox. Now, he's the senator from Kentucky. Great. And he obviously
Yeah.
got clearance from Bissent to go do this. And here's what he said before he walked into Fort Knox. We're at Fort Knox. We've come to see the gold. Our country has about 147 million ounces of gold, 8,300 tons, and about half of it is stored here at Fort Knox. We're going to be going deep underground to see the gold. All right. He comes out 3 hours later, and here's what he says. Yes, the gold is all there. Approximately 147 million ounces. It's impressive. But the real point is what it still teaches us in 2026. In 71, we severed the dollar from gold, and since then the currency has lost over 85% of its value, and prices are higher because the money itself is weaker. Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay, all right. So, okay, but in 3 hours, he audited, so he says, 147 million fine troy ounces of gold. Okay, that's a Guinness New World Record. I looked it up. I looked it up.
Indeed.
And in this day and age of cell phones, there was not one picture of the vaults being open. Oh, here we are counting it. Oh, here we are.
Right.
Not one picture, right? No assays, no documentation produced. You know, I'm a huge fan, as you are, of Ron Paul. But
100%.
Rand Paul, who seems like an okay guy, is not his daddy. Because his daddy never would have been trotted out like a show pony to do that unless he had a team of auditors with him. Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is a disappointment that Rand probably handled this situation the way it did. I think if it was going to go under official audit, I think the last individual too, I believe, was Thomas Massey, had been calling for a Fort Knox audit before he ran out of the government, which I think you're more likely to be in the scenario of getting ran out of the government if you are going to do an official audit, in my personal opinion.
So let's talk about how folks can become their own Fort Knox, because this is the only way. When Nixon took the gold, severed the relationship between gold and the dollar, gold was valued at $35 an ounce. Right now, it's valued around $4,500 an ounce. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
So if you were your own Fort Knox and said, okay, I don't like that Nixon's doing this, like Ben Janda did, well, yeah, inflation would still be here, but you would have had a means of protecting yourself with physical gold and physical silver. So educate us, Adriana, because too many people are told, oh, it's too difficult to buy physical gold and physical silver, and it's hard to buy it and it's hard to sell it when you want to sell it. Take us through the steps.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's a very, very easy process. You can head over to CaminoCompany.com and you can purchase online. We have a 24/7 store. Or you can also give us a call. We're open 8:30 to 4 o'clock, and we will go over your purchase power. One of the things that I think that shuns people from buying as it is they say, well, I don't have that much money. And, to me, I think the thing is making sure that everybody has the capability of accumulating some form of, whether it's gold or silver. That's the important aspect. So there's really no order that's too small for us, and there's no order that's too big for us as well. But, just making sure that everybody's taken care of, especially as we fight for the middle class. We're seeing more and more as there's huge discrepancies in the middle class, and we're losing it quite rapidly. And that's my goal, is to make sure that, everybody has the ability to take care of their families, to take care of their mortgage payments, to take care of yourself, to not put your family into debt. I do feel more than ever, unfortunately, that America is on the precipice of probably one of its biggest recession, potential depressions, just the way things are going, the way things are changing. I'm also out here in Silicon Valley where AI is talked about a lot more than other areas. We have data centers going up, so there's obviously a lot going on around the country. But we also are accumulating, potential to have this major crash. My grandmother, actually, before she passed away, always said that things happen every 100 years because the next generation's not there to tell you, the generation before is not there to tell you what you guys are doing wrong. So that's why it always happens that way, she said. So I feel that more than ever, it's just absolutely critical to have it, especially as we see inflation numbers are coming out again. We see all the stuff happening with oil, and that's talked about a lot. But right now I'm talking about making sure that your family is safe on your home turf. So giving us a call is just really just putting your family at its best potential to fight against the system. Like I said in the beginning, fighting against the system is not easy. When it's one versus the House, our government, it's a very dangerous space for you to live. But if we all fight against it, that's how we really bring the system down. And that's why, unfortunately, my business is probably the biggest threat to the banking system, because we are the only thing that you can buy that during a crash or during anything that would be a major downfall where they want to get rich, the rich want to get richer. Just remember, they get rich on the crashes, not on the highs. Is that if everybody had gold and silver, they could never, ever take all of our net wealth from us, which is what they're trying to do. So that's what we have to watch out for, and that's what I'm here to protect everybody from.
And Adriana, what are the most effective ways for folks to get in touch with you?
So you can give us a call at 800-348-8001. You can also head over to CaminoCompany.com. If you want to talk to me directly, you can also email me at adriana@CaminoCompany.com. There's also a contact us link on our website as well. It also is Adriana with one N, just to be clear, adriana@CaminoCompany.com. And we're open 8:30 to 4 Pacific Standard Time.
And Adriana, where are we right now with supply and demand? Where is the demand from the public? Is it there, or have they been so shellacked over the past 5 months with the syndicate and their criminal manipulation games? Have they decided to stay to the sideline? Where are we with supply and demand?
So after we had the initial drop where we came down from our ultimate highs, we did start to see purchasing was not as high as it was before. But now that we are in the situation where we held at a number that most people had thought that it would even keep going back down to its, resting numbers, which I don't believe is going to happen anytime soon. And on top of that, with inflation growing and numbers growing, we will hold at a new bottom. We will create a new bottom. Buyers have started stepping back in rapidly. We're seeing a lot of purchases of gold and silver, a lot of large purchases of gold for people who are really trying to take their money out of the banking system. And then we also have a lot of individuals buying silver just because of the scare. We aren't sure where this is headed. If we do go to a cashless society, you always want to be prepared for that. I was always taught cash is king because it protects our freedom, but unfortunately, cash is no longer safe for any of us. So you can put your money into something that matters.